The Indiana Climate Change Impacts Assessment is an effort by more than 100 experts from around the state, from many different institutions, to answer questions that people have, different industries have, different sectors have, about how climate change is going to affect them over the course of this century. And we're doing this across 9 different topics, everything from energy to water resources, infrastructure, and today we're talking about health.
Interestingly, a lot of the impacts of climate change that affect health have already been occurring. We've already seen climate changing, particularly over the last 30 years, where the footprint's pretty strong here in Indiana.
The public health effects of climate change are the health effects of climate change. I mean, in public health, we try to take care of the health of whole geographic populations.
And climate change is considered one of these great threat multipliers for public health, and particularly that's true in cities. Cities have quite a few unique characteristics which make them sort of hotbeds generally for poor air quality, and also the income disparities within cities means that there's quite a few vulnerable populations which aren't provided adequate access to health care.
The report goes through a lot of the health impacts that we'll have. There's the heat waves, and a lot of the things we're doing to try to deal with the heat waves is not just the public health department, but citywide and statewide. There's emergency planning. What happens when we have some heat-related event? How do we respond? How do we make sure that people get access to the services they need?
Some of the key findings we found are an increase in viral-borne diseases, so those that are brought forward by ticks and mosquitoes. So that's Lyme disease, but also the potential for malaria, dengue fever, and Zika, which are very serious health conditions. There's other issues related to air quality. With warmer summers, you get greater ozone production and general heat stress for urban populations.
Climate change is going to affect people with asthma in large part through its impact on ozone.
Asthma is a particular concern. Asthma has certain environmental triggers, right, and also other triggers for it. But for the environmental triggers, almost all of them will exacerbate the potential for asthma attacks in populations in Indiana.
In cities, there'll be a bit more impact from the heat because of the heat island effect you have in urban areas with less greenery, which actually leads to one of the things we can do about it is increase the vegetation within cities to decrease that heat island effect. But in rural areas, Indiana has a lot of swine producers. One of the animals that's most sensitive to heat are pigs. They don't sweat. They have to respirate to get rid of heat. So they aren't as adaptable to the sudden changes in temperature and to the heat. So that's going to affect them a lot. The flooding is going to affect everywhere. We've got rivers and reservoirs.
Climate change will impact cities pretty profoundly. And the question is, how can cities reshape themselves, and how can communities reshape themselves to be more resilient to the net negative impacts of climate change on health?
Climate change touches us in many, many different ways, and it's important to prepare for those different ways, and it's important that we recognize the changes that are coming and that are already underway. So this report just really tries to prepare us as a state for those changes.